Hi, I'm Clint Lambert, and it's my pleasure to be the host today of Village in Motion. And I have two very important people in the studio with me at this time because they take care of us when we are in need of them. And I have with us Theresa Bantasan, who is an occupational therapist, and I have Wainless, who is a physical therapist. And we're just very glad to have both of you ladies with us.
Well, thank you.
What is the difference between occupational therapy and physical therapy? I mean, you hear about these therapies, and you guys are out of the same office, right?
Yes, correct.
So what's different?
In a lot of areas no, I shouldn't say that. In some areas we overlap, but here at Green Spring, the way we've sort of divided our services is physical therapy focuses more on large, gross strength, balance, and gait, ambulation. One way to look at it is we try to prepare the body for OT to then go in and focus on more activities of daily living. And I'll let Theresa.
And activities of daily living include what?
It includes like feeding, like toileting, going to the bathroom, like bathing, and not only like in the terms of self-care, it's like the things that you enjoy, like hobbies, and if you're working part-time, full-time, and that's part of it too. So occupational therapy sometimes it's interchange, you know. They get confused all the time.
Yes.
Like they say it's like the same thing. But for occupational therapy, we focus on improving patients or clients to be independent in their daily task on day-to-day living. And we not only focus on the physical aspects of the person, we focus as a whole, like mentally and cognitively. Like for example, like a patient has a stroke, and like physical therapy, like focus on improving the strength, the walking, as we focus to improving the function of the patient and for them to be able to feed themselves. We also, it's a holistic approach. We look at a person as a whole, and we recommend like adaptive equipment. Like a patient cannot feed themselves, we let them use some equipment to be independent as much as they can. So
is that the reason that we will see in the dining room sometimes with the large spoons and big handles?
Yes, big handles, the plates, special plates. It's not only for feeding, there's some for toileting or transferring into the tub. We have those equipment. We recommend those equipments for them to be independent as much as they can through their probably new baseline while they're recuperating.
Speaking of being as independent as they can be, in the past, my wife and I have been here for over 11 years, individuals who were needing someone to feed them were not allowed in the main dining rooms. They were fed in the cafe. That has changed over the last 11 years. What's the reason for that?
It's because too, it's like I think the reason too, they're more open. People are, accepting people that has a disability. And for us too, with therapy, we teach these patients to be, included and to be much independent. And they're not like really isolated in their own environment because they cannot eat. So that's why we come in. We help them to achieve as much as they can to be independent.
To return to their as normal level as they can be, right?
Yes.
Activities of daily living. With physical therapy, what's the difference between you guys and people in the fitness center? Because you're saying you work on strength and physical things.
Right, with people that have actual disabilities, for example, with neurological disabilities, strokes, for example. There are stages of recovery that people that have had strokes will, typically go through. And as therapists, we are trained, as physical therapists, we are trained in knowing what those stages are, learning various techniques to promote patients passing through those stages quickly to get to their maximum. Whereas at the fitness center, it's pretty much just standard exercises.
So would you guys then use pools that are hotter? rather than just swimming pools or using lap pools?
No,
Well,
here we don't use any pools at all. So all of our therapy is on solid ground, on land. But we do recommend, especially for people with arthritis, exercising in water is ideal. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If I had need for you, how would I know that I really need to go to you rather than going to the fitness center? What would be the differential there?
Well, if you've had an injury, let's say you've broken, torn, hurt something, if you've had a surgical procedure that has rendered you in some way, you know, I don't want to say disabled, but not as able as you were, those are things that we would focus on. If there's been a neurological problem and you see your doctor, the doctor is the one who would write orders for us.
Prescriptions.
So both of you then have to have physician's orders.
Yeah, so we cannot see a patient without a prescription from a doctor or nurse practitioner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long, excuse me, how many sessions are you allowed?
It varies. And it's, let's say, in Garden Ridge, where you are an inpatient, that is typically covered under Medicare Part A and whatever secondary insurance the resident might have. And that really varies on each individual's need.
Okay.
Medicare Part A covers up to 100 days, but that doesn't mean everyone will need 100 days. If they've reached their maximum potential within 2 weeks, that's when the discharge occurs.
Okay.
Under outpatient, it's covered under Medicare Part B and whatever secondary insurance. And that also is, you know, pretty much all therapy is on an as-needed. If you need certain amount of sessions, we really haven't had any trouble.
Yeah, and some doctors sometimes, like when they go back for a follow-up, the doctor will say, oh, probably you need a little bit more. And then therapy can reassess you if you need more or not. So it just really depends on each
so then
injury.
You give progress notes then to the physician and how the patient's progressing?
We do. There are times that we give progress note to them, and especially when you have, like, you know, the measurements, the range of motion, what strength they are now, and what the things that they can do and able not to do. So we do give them progress notes if they wanted to. Yeah.
So if someone needs your services or feels they need your services, first thing they need to do is what?
Get a prescription from the doctor.
They go see a physician, huh?
Then they'll come.
Or a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, nurse practitioner.
When they do come to, let's say, outpatient, which is where I'm at this point in time, you will be evaluated either by an occupational therapist, if that's what you know the orders are for, or physical therapist. And depending on what the evaluation is, we always discuss with the resident what their goals are, what we have found as, you know, our findings, and try to incorporate goals that are
realistic as possible.
Realistic and meaningful to the resident.
So they're beneficial to both, and agreeable to both the therapist and to the resident.
Correct. And they have to be, you know, attainable, realistic, because if someone hasn't walked, let's say, for 10 years, that's not a reasonable goal. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
What happens if you see someone deteriorating in regards to their progress? If you're treating someone, let's just say with occupational therapy, if someone loses their hand strength and they're losing it as you're progressing, working with them, what do you do?
We usually, like, you know, call the doctor to see that these things are happening, which is probably there's some things that's going on, like suspecting other injuries that had caused, you know, additional injuries from the first injury. So we usually call the doctor about it, and we reevaluate why is this happening, and then let the doctors know about it.
It's always.
So in other words, what I'm hearing you say, there's a close relationship between you, both of you as therapists, with the physician.
There can be, yes. I mean, if there's something going on that the physician needs to know, within Green Spring, we have a close relationship with the doctors at the medical center, for sure. If they're external doctors, we will call them, fax them, notify them as needed, absolutely.
In some facilities, I know that there's team meetings of nurses and therapists and physicians and social workers and all that kind of. Do we have that here?
We do. We, as the therapists, typically don't attend. We, the managers attend those and filter information to us. We, as a team, have meetings weekly. You know, PT, OT, speech, because that's the whole.
Talking about patients and where they are, and so like for us in Garden Ridge, we do it every Monday, and then for outpatient, like,
well,
I don't know, like,
we just.
They come together.
Yeah,
we talk about it.
Yeah, it's more on a daily basis because it's a smaller group.
So Theresa, you're actually in inpatient then?
Actually, I'm working half and half.
Oh, okay.
In inpatient, like in Garden Ridge, and I work in assisted living, and then I do work in here in Hunter's Crossing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right now, for the last 4 months, I've been an outpatient.
Okay.
Prior to, for the past 9 years, I've been in Garden Ridge, an inpatient.
Okay.
So.
What's the difference? And from a therapy standpoint?
From a therapy standpoint, in Garden Ridge, the residents are much more globally involved. There's a lot general weakness. They've either been to into the hospital, or they've had something kind of major happen. So it's a more global picture. In outpatient, it's much more localized.
Okay.
So someone will come in with a shoulder problem, or particularly a balance problem, or a knee problem, or a back problem. Where in Garden Ridge,
so
it's much more.
Yeah, for inpatient, usually they came from the hospital. They come in the inpatient for, like, they have acute incident that happened. And then after that, when they're in Garden Ridge doing therapy, then they go back home. And then sometimes we do recommend, if they need further therapy, that's where we refer to outpatient. That's why they go to outpatient after that.
And a good way, a good way to think of that is in Garden Ridge, most of our focus is function, to functionally maximize each resident's ability to be functionally as independent as possible, and to get them to where
return home.
Yeah, the ideal.
So the goal is to get them to return home at their optimal ability.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, it sounds like you guys are really busy with what you're doing.
We are.
This is wintertime, 7 days before Christmas. Everybody's hurrying around, not paying attention where we're going. What's a major thing that you see this time of year from your therapy standpoint?
Yeah, usually, like, winter is a wonderful, season, but like sometimes when the snow falls, people do so fall too, because icy outside, and so it's you have to be very careful when it's winter. And there's a lot of falls going on. It's like around these times, patient comes in there with us and break their hip, and it's like, say, what happens? Like, oh, I fell outside, and this. So you have to be very careful about when you go outside, especially like wear shoes that is really like a good traction.
Good treads on them.
Yes, like rubber shoes, or dress warmly, because when your muscle is tense, you could like affect your balance. So also wear gloves. Don't put your hands in your pocket when you're walking.
Why do you keep your hands out of your pocket when you're walking?
So when you fall, your reflex normally is to protect yourself.
Okay.
So that's a reflex from.
It's just a normal human reflex.
Absolutely.
Yes. And don't carry heavy loads. Like that could challenge your balance, and then you don't have something to like support yourself.
And in this busy time, take the time to walk slow. And when it's snow or icy outside, really do walk like a penguin. Give yourself that wide base of support.
Give yourself the quack.
Yes.
That's very effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then be very careful too when you're getting in and out of the car. Make sure both feet are planted, and then before you get up, you try to hang on to the car door to support yourself.
Okay.
That's another thing, a tip to be.
Does that also
safe.
apply in getting out of bed? I mean, if you've got some blood pressure issues or,
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of our residents, and I hear them intuitively, they just know when they first get up, they'll sit for a moment or two till they let everything settle before they get up
Okay.
and move. And that is pretty wise.
Okay. How many of your residents that see you use walkers, the frames I'm thinking about?
Yeah, a good amount. Either the walker, the rollator, or a cane, some sort of adaptive equipment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are canes safe?
Canes are safe. Canes are safe for people that don't require a lot of. Canes are safe for people whose balance is fairly good.
Oh, okay.
And they're fairly strong. If as one develops or has more weakness or more balance issues, a walker or a rollator provides a more substantial base of support.
Okay.
So they're safe for for certain individuals.
And that would be very safe getting out of bed too, right?
To use your
a frame.
absolutely.
Adaptive equipment.
Okay.
Because people, when you wake up, you're groggy, you're not,
Or
you know,
half
the
asleep.
lighting isn't quite,
Half asleep.
yeah, the lighting isn't quite as good. So
Right.
yeah, to allow yourself to use your assistive device,
Okay.
especially when you get up at night, is very sound.
I know at one time we had people that would go into the apartments and they would do a safety checkup.
Yeah.
Do you guys do that?
Yep, still.
Yes, we do. Like I usually do a home safety. We call it home safety assessment. We assess the patient's environment for them to be safe as much as they can. So we try to focus on the hazards that could cause for them to fall,
Okay.
just like loose rugs. The common thing that I usually see is like people use a step stool
Yes.
to reach in the cupboard, and that's a
Bad
no-no.
idea.
Yeah, that's a very bad idea. And it's just really common in here in Green Spring. I see that all the time.
Interesting.
So
To stay off the step stool. So.
stay away from the step stool, and then remove loose rugs as much as you can, especially those small ones. It could get caught in your wheel if you're using a cane or
you catch
a
your foot on
rollator,
your shoe on it.
On your foot shoe, yeah.
Okay.
And that home safety assessment is true not only for independent living, but let's say someone has then transitioned from independent living to assisted living and they're in a new environment. We can go in and assess their new environment and kind of help them learn their new environment and see how safe they are within that. So that home assessment is on various levels.
Great. So if we need you,
We're here.
give you a call, right?
Yes, give us a call.
Okay,
We're
but get your
here.
physician order first.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank both of you for joining
Thank
us
you
today.
very much. Thank you.
And we hope everybody stays safe and have less falls.
That's right.
Yes.
And
Actually, remember, like ice and snow, you have to take it slow.
That's right.
Very good.
That's right.
Very important.
That's
Great.
right.
Well, thanks again.
Thank
We
you
look forward
very
to
much.
seeing you again.
Thank you.